Good morning, Maria. It's great to be with you today. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to spend this time together and to interview you. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good, thank you, Laura. I didn't get much sleep last night because it was very
Oh,
stormy here.
wow.
But yeah, but I'm good, and thank you so much for taking the time out to do this with me.
Yeah, thank you. Really, I've been loving this opportunity to spend time with many women actually in the last 2 or 3 months. And these interviews have been popular and many people benefited from them. So I'm excited to have you today. I know that you have many interesting things and important things to share. So yeah, I just wanted to have a sense of how are you doing in relationship also to the turbulent times and what's up in your life at the moment.
Yeah, and oh gosh, we are in turbulent times, aren't we? Um, yeah, for me, it's very much about me coming back to center and just almost having to detach myself from what's going on out there in a lot of ways. So I just dip into what I need to when I need to. But I'm very aware of my own energy now and focusing on what I'm here to do rather than getting caught up in all the other stuff that's going on, which is difficult. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I know. I know it's difficult when there is also this overload of information and sensory
Mm.
stimulation and fear as well. And yeah, these are not easy times. I know that you have a lot of wisdom and a lot to share. And when you and I were chatting before this recording today, we were deciding together what was the topic that you could bring to our audience. And so I would like to start from what we said initially, which is to talk about this pattern of people pleasing, which is so ingrained, if I say that correctly in English, in our culture. And I'm sure that many women can resonate with that and want to hear more about it. So, yeah, I would
Mm.
love to hear your thoughts about that.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, people pleasing is something that's very close to my heart. It was a massive part of my journey, and it's something that I see in lots of other women. It affects men as well, but I specifically work with women. It affects lots of other women, but in different ways. There are some people who um, have it less than others, and then there are other women who have it to such an extent that they're not living their life, they're almost living somebody else's life or some version of who they think they need to be. And it can be really detrimental, as I learned myself.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's something I feel very passionate about.
Mm. And what is it that what did bring you to relate so closely to this topic, both personally and professionally? What's your story behind?
Yeah, and that's certainly why I do what I do now is very much having gone through my own journey. So um, I was probably in my 40s when I realized for the first time that I was a people pleaser. Hadn't no, well, I hadn't really understood till then that I'd been a people pleaser. And it had had a really detrimental impact on me. So I can see now that from childhood, I'd been programmed, for want of a better word, to be a people pleaser. So, I was very much the only girl in a family of boys. And as a girl, there were certain things that were expected of me. So it was that whole good girl syndrome, nice girl. Yeah, yeah, you can relate to this. You know, putting other people before yourself, a very strong I had a very strong model of, women being the givers, the carers, the ones that held everything. And so that was within my family setting. And then I also got quite badly bullied at school for quite a long time. And as I internalized that, it became obviously there's something wrong with me for all of these people not to like me. And so I just took that as something that was wrong with me. And this is where I began to then be what other people needed me to be. I could fit in, be accepted. And so that was a behavior that it was quite deeply ingrained, I think, as a child. So as an adult, I just carried on unwittingly with that behavior. And, I was always the person who compromised. I was the peacekeeper. These are the kind of common themes of people who people please. I was always the giver. I would go out of my way to, make things right for everybody else, often to the detriment of myself and my own needs. Didn't voice my opinion in case I upset anybody. So all of that kind of went on. Alongside that, I was doing all the things that I felt I should be doing. So, getting my career, got married, had my children. So on the surface, I was doing everything. On the surface, I had life sorted. I had a career, I had a nice house, I was married. But inside, I felt like I was dying. This went on for quite a few years. I felt there was something missing, but I didn't know what it was that was missing. And it was really only when I hit my 40s and I hit menopause and some quite life-changing events happened as well. And with all of that, with all of this kind of upheaval and lots of things falling away, divorce, losing my parents. So those roles had gone. I was no longer a wife. I was no longer a daughter in the sense of, having parents who were here. My career had gone as well. And suddenly I was left with, oh, okay, if I can't identify myself in this way, who am I? What's left? It really was quite a life-changing moment. And so from there, I began this whole journey of finding me again, because I really had lost myself. And I realized now that I'd lost myself because I'd been constantly being somebody who I thought I needed to be, not showing up as me. And therefore, what that created was a sense of people not getting me, people not understanding me, but that was because they weren't getting me. They weren't getting the real me. They were getting this version of me that I thought I needed to be. So that was my journey through this whole process, which led me eventually to doing this work that I do now.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I felt, the need to put my hand on my chest and slow down a few times. I was resonating very much with what you were saying. And I'm sure, as we said before, that there is really a strong cultural and systemic aspect, in all this. This is an individual story, but it's not only individual. And I remember, in my own experience, I've been, you say, programmed. I've been also programmed and educated pretty much in that way. I was an only daughter. My mother died when I was 6. And I remember one of the first things that my father told me when my mother died, it was like, okay, from now on, you have to behave and you have to be obedient. And I still remember that moment. It's very vivid, as if I literally took a vow, that was a contract or a vow, we can say energetically, with my father. And so I took on that role pretty seriously. And I also brought it, as you say, to extreme. I brought it, I feel, to forms of martyrdom that also belonged probably to Italian culture for other reasons, included, Catholic religion and so on. So I'm sure that many women know that place. So you say that something started to shift for you around your 40s, and then around perimenopause and menopause, you started to shed layers, and there was a new identity basically that was being born, and you couldn't recognize yourself any longer as a wife or the daughter. Something changed in your work, and I want to ask you as well, what happened in your 40s? What else happened that did make you understand that was something that you needed to change? What were the red flags or the signs,
Yeah, so there were a lot of them. There were a lot of red flags, and I ignored them, as we do, because I was so fearful of change. So, in terms of what changed, it was a falling away of all the structures around me, really. So, marriage that was failing on the outside, my life looked good to anybody on the outside. And within me, this deep sense of shame that I wasn't happy with what I had, because actually I had everything that I wanted. so there was this real sense of conflict going on. And it was a gradual process of all these things just falling away. I now see it as the universe, putting up the flags almost to say, come on, Maria, you need to do something about this. Me ignoring them until, it went pretty, it felt like I lost everything at one point. So I ended up in my late 40s, early 50s, living on my own for the first time ever. And literally looking at myself in the bathroom mirror one morning and finding this woman staring back at me. And I was like, oh, who are you? So it was a kind of gradual process, a gradual realization that I was deeply unhappy and that I needed to change. And I think I did that classic thing that we all tend to do of changing all the things on the outside, so getting a different job, living somewhere else, trying all these different things, and still I couldn't find this thing that was missing. And then it was that realization that morning in the bathroom mirror where I realized that what was missing was me. I wasn't present in my own life. I'd been living a life for other people. So then it began a kind of claiming back of me, and that was quite a scary process. It was like, well, where do you start? And again, this is quite a common theme that I find for other women. It can feel so scary that you almost don't want to go on that journey of finding out, because you don't know what you might find. So it was very much going on the inner journey. It was definitely my spiritual awakening. Everything changing through menopause, body changes, hormone changes, and gradually begin to claim things back for me. So starting to do things like put myself first. Never done that. Never done that. That felt really selfish. So just small steps, really, to begin with, of claiming me, trying things that I hadn't done before to see if I liked them or not, connecting with new people that opened up relationships that I wouldn't have experienced before. So lots of different things, really, that really began to bring me back to myself. And the more that I did that, the more this sense of peace began to grow, until I did get to that point where I just felt completely at peace with who I was, who I am, I'm very strong now. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. And if people don't like me, that is absolutely fine. I'm no longer tied to that. Please like me.
Thank you. What a great place to be. I can really imagine that. Yeah, it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. And I would like to ask you, what would you say today, with the wisdom of today, to that younger woman, younger Maria starting that journey? What piece of advice would you give to her?
I would say to her that she is absolutely perfect as she is. She doesn't need to be anybody else, and that you know, if people don't like you, then that's not a reflection of you. Sometimes people don't like you, and that's absolutely fine. But I think that for younger women, I would say it's worth just saying, okay, how am I showing up in my life, and am I being true to myself? So a big thing that I'd done lots of personal development work. One of the things that I'd never done till I think my late 40s was look at what my values were. It was something that somehow passed me by in all the development work I'd done. And when I looked at what my personal values are, what's important to me, it's honesty, authenticity, and integrity. And I hadn't been living any of those. So, I hadn't been honest with myself and other people. I was out of integrity. I wasn't being authentic. So that's another really big thing I would say to younger women is what are your values? What are the things that are really important to you? Important to you living your best life? And then are you actually following those values in what you do and how you show up and how you behave?
Thank you. And I'm also curious to ask you, in your experience, what's the relationship between this process and coming to terms with the costs of, people pleasing and midlife or menopause in general?
I think menopause is such a catalyst for a lot of women, because I think it's that point you get to in life where things start to change physically, hormonally. Things might be changing in your life. There can be a lot going on at midlife. If you've got children, they could be leaving home. If you've got parents, they're sort of aging and possibly not in good health. So there can be a lot going on at midlife altogether. And I think it's that point in life where, as a woman, you begin to question, okay, I'm kind of at the midway point here, if I'm lucky. Am I where I want to be? Is this how it's meant to be? And if you're not, then that's the point at which you, I think, really begin to question things. So I'm quite horrified a lot of the time now by how I see menopause portrayed. I think there's a lot of fear created around menopause. I think, and I hold my hand up to this myself, as somebody who'd worked in healthcare. I used to be a nurse. I got to my menopause and I'd got no idea what was going on. I literally didn't understand. So I think as women, we've lost that sense of the elders who would have taken us through this passage. And I think menopause holds a lot of magic for women. It's a really important passage. And I see it as my own personal, for myself, as a rebirth. It was my rebirth of me. And I think that's possible for all women. So I'm not sure that answered your question, but
thank you. Yeah, I got a lot of goosebumps when you spoke about the magic of this life transition and what menopause meant to you and this rebirth. process. Thank you.
And I want to just add there as well that I think that that's another program, the fear around menopause, um, and that keeps women not being able to really embrace it
Mhm.
as a positive in life. It's seen as
Mhm.
something to be feared and to be got through and to be dreaded. And I
Mhm.
think if we shift that perspective,
Mhm.
um, there's so much that can open up.
Mhm. I agree. I feel the same. And I really can see how these two things can navigate in a parallel way. You know, if we stay smaller, if we don't reclaim
Mm,
this
mm,
threshold for what it is, a threshold of empowerment and magic and beauty and landing more fully in ourselves, very likely we will stay with those patterns of people pleasing or making ourselves victim and so on. So I can see that there are many threads there. Also in my own personal experience, I am certainly somebody recovering from that. And another way probably to look at that or to describe it, I can imagine it is also codependency, whether that became more present with a parent during childhood, and then that can be replicated and molded and in various other
mm.
relationships in life, depending on the intensity or importance of relationships. So I feel that there are definitely many ways to look at it. And I know that it has been very, very important for me. And I also noticed that when I start doing that and pulling my energy back and starting to look at what I wanted to do first, rather than, pleasing my dad, for example, I'm aware that a lot of fear came throughout my system, probably a lot of memories from childhood based also on those vows or agreements I took before. And then there was also, a sense of shame and guilt, So it feels like this process is like peeling an onion, we enter in one layer and then there is something else coming to surface, and it's really a potent journey. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is that how I describe it is, if women have lost who they are,
mm,
it's because they're still in here, but it's buried deep under all that old programming, the beliefs. And I also think it's generational as well. I think it comes down through our DNA and it's passed down through whatever our ancestors have experienced. So
mm,
there's a lot, there's a lot to get rid of
yeah,
or let go of, should I say.
it's very nuanced as everything, isn't it? I mean, we live in this culture, also because of social media where everything becomes, fast and quick and black or white or right and wrong, but life has more complexity than that.
Mm.
So while you were saying that, I was also thinking maybe this is an unusual um, question, but what would be, what's the other, what's the wisdom, what's the medicine of being um, a people pleaser, if it makes sense, what I want to say, rather than looking at something that it has to be, completely I don't want to say dismissed, but there is a learning as well, right? That arise when we hold the patterns. What could be the gold that we can harvest from that old, you know, pattern, which is limiting, obviously. But what's the gold? What's something wise? What's the, silver lining? What can we harvest from it?
Mm. Oh, I think that's such an important question because I think it's easy to get into that. Oh, look at all this awful thing that's happened to me, or see it as something very negative. But what I take from it is, if I hadn't been a people pleaser,
Mm.
and I hadn't had all the experiences that I'd had, I wouldn't have got to the point where I'd have gone on that inner journey
Mhm.
and um, and really dug deep to find myself again. And
Mm.
so I very much believe that a lot of what happens in our life happens for us rather than to us. So it's that um, it, it encourages us to step
Mhm.
into something more than we would have been otherwise. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I would
Yeah, yeah,
take.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I guess that what I was imagining, it was also, what's the skill as well of this people pleaser, because obviously she also developed some skills, she reads the environment very well. She can read people, she's possibly very sensitive, her senses are very acute, or, you know, so I was also thinking that um I want to
Mm,
fight myself, at least, because of the work I'm also doing with inner parts, of also honoring the medicine that this part brought me to be able to, also give thanks and maybe release her in a way, because I know for myself that I also in the past developed a lot of inner conflict, wanting to
mm,
push things away or ban, or reject other parts of myself. So thank you for that
mm.
reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you've expressed that, and I totally, yeah, totally agree. So that, yeah, I can see that people pleasers are very good at reading a room, very good at read the nuances of other
Mhm.
people's energy. You don't need to say anything, but you can almost,
Um,
you know, sense the other person's energy.
mm.
So there are a lot of
Empathics. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she could be seen also as a character, as a one of the shadow characters of the healer, of the wounded healer or the medicine woman, whatever we want to call, this other archetype. There is always something uh, in the shadow, obviously, when we do that at the expenses of our own health.
Mm.
So I'm curious to ask you also, what are the other common threads or patterns, a tendency that you or common things that you observed by working extensively now with women in this area? What else did you notice?
Yeah, so that a lot of women um, play small, and again, that's another program that's been instilled, I think. Um, so there seem to be very different rules in society for women who are strong and speak out. They're seen as difficult, whereas if a man did that, it's almost something to be it's seen as a very positive trait. So I think for a lot of women, there's this tendency to kind of keep themselves playing small. They don't want to kind of be out there too much in case they get judged and criticized. So I would say that's another strong theme as well, um, that runs through. And alongside that, I think the conditioning of how as a woman we're meant to be in society. We're um, there's a lot of conditioning around that I think so many women still hold on to or um, find it difficult to step beyond.
Mm. And also in your experience of working with these women when they come to you, what is it that they're mostly bringing? For example, is it more challenges in their relationships or family life, or is it in their work, or is it in their spiritual life, or how this at the beginning, what's emerging for them?
Yeah, and it can be quite a lot of things. So women with all sorts of it can present in all sorts of different ways, but there's just ultimately this sense of something's not quite right. They don't feel happy in their life. Something's not working, and they might not even be able to express what it is, but they just know that something's got to change. Um, and I tend to attract women who are more spiritual.
Mm.
I find that women who are already on their spiritual journey are ready to go on that deep inner journey. They know it's an inner journey and it can't be solved by changing things externally. Um, so I've lost the question now. Sorry, I've gone off on a, a tangent.
Yeah. I asked you in which area of this women's life this pattern would be more apparent than others, or what is it that they're bringing at the beginning to your sessions? Where is it that they notice that there is something that is not working, something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, so it really is quite diverse.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this sort of deep dissatisfaction, whether that's in a relationship or in their work, or even to the point of setting up their own business, wanting to do their own work, but still being held back by that. I can't be all of me. And often what happens is when we go on this journey together, which I describe, it's that journey that's going from the head to the heart. It's one we're always on, as we go through life. Um, as they go on that journey, things become uncovered that they hadn't anticipated, and that's the magic of it. So, I've had some women just tap into realizing gifts that they hadn't been aware of before. Um, Women being able to call in healthier relationships because they begin to understand the part that they've been playing in attracting what they would describe as not healthy relationships. Um, yeah, so it's I'm always amazed at how powerful it is, and I never know what the transformation is going to be as we go on it together. We've always got this thing that we're very clear about at the beginning that we're working towards, but along the way, there's so much more that um, that appears and then gets uncovered, and that's the really magical bit. I love it.
I can imagine that. I would love to hear more about this part, actually. Could you offer just an example about one of the transformational situations that you witnessed that touched you?
Yeah.
That you feel comfortable sharing, obviously, also because of confidentiality, maybe just in a
Yeah.
generic way.
Yeah. But sometimes it's and yeah, I'll do it generally rather than specifically. Um, Women connecting with some ancestral stuff that's been going on, that has been playing out in their life, and through our sessions they're able to connect with this and then transform it, and it's healed. So I actually had some really powerful sessions, and again, this is stuff that neither of us was expecting to come up, but when it did, it's been really powerful, to have that healing of that ancestral stuff, because it's almost like I don't want to say a breaking, but it's shifting that energy from something that's been holding them back to something that they can now use to really empower themselves moving forward. So that's a very kind of spiritual out there one. But another example is somebody that I worked with just for quite a short period of time, who had a beautiful wardrobe of clothes, but she never wore them because she didn't feel good about herself. So we did some work together, and then she decided to open a wardrobe one day and wore these clothes, which were really colourful and she loved to wear, but she decided to put them on and go out. And when she went out, she got stopped by another woman who said, "Oh, I just love what you're wearing," and was really affirming of what she had on. And that really shifted her, because it was almost like she'd given herself permission to do something that made her feel good by wearing something that made her feel good. And then literally, she hadn't been out the door very long, where it was almost like the universe said, right, we're going to affirm to you that actually, this is how you should be showing up in the world. So that completely shifted how she felt about herself. And so she began wearing those colourful clothes that have just been sat in the wardrobe for years.
Thank you. It's interesting for me that you're mentioning these examples, because they're both including somewhat the relational field or relations. We are not isolated individuals, and everything takes place through relationships, whether that is ancestral healing and then the blessings that people send back to the ancestors, also acknowledging the strength that we receive from the ancestors. The situation that you just mentioned, where this woman, she not only found these clothes, but she was stopped by somebody. So something happened there through mirroring or witnessing or opening up to the possibility to also receive a different gesture of kindness by somebody. And yeah, it just make me think about also how much in our society and how a lot of the therapeutic field and also a lot of the coaching industry puts, in my opinion, exaggerated weight on self. It's all about self, self-help, self-development, however you want to call it, forgetting that we are embedded in the, much wider forces and the web of life, and we're constantly in relationship with everything and everyone else, and, and the trees and the plants and all life around us. So thank you. So if somebody is just at the beginning, this is one of the last questions I'm going to ask you for today. If somebody is just at the beginning of this journey, and again, everybody's different, and we spoke about nuances, but again, if somebody is at the beginning of this journey, being maybe a little bit overwhelmed and not knowing where to start, and what would be the first piece of advice that you would give to somebody who wants to embark on this journey of transformation?
So I would say, first of all, look at where your self-care is, because chances are there probably isn't any any going on. So what are you doing for yourself each day that is just for you, and that really allows you to develop that relationship with yourself, because it is an ongoing process. So for me, it's meditation and journaling, and also I would say to get the support that you need if you're really struggling on your own, and you can't find your way through, then it's okay to ask for help, because we all need help along the way. I've had a lot of help through my journey. I couldn't have done it on my own. And sometimes that's all you need, is somebody to just hold that space for you, so that you feel seen and you feel heard and you feel understood, and you have that space to explore.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I resonate with that deeply. And is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share?
I think we've kind of covered most things, haven't we? Just that I think I want to say for, you know, for anybody who's resonating with this, doing the work, although it might feel scary, it's the biggest gift that you can give yourself. It really is.
Thank you. So we're coming to the end then of this conversation. Thank you so much for being with me today. I look forward to share this interview and to hear from other women and see what they can harvest or learn from it. And yeah, where people can find about you, if you could share a little bit more about your work and if there is anything specific that you're offering at the moment.
Okay. So yeah, I'm the Wise Woman Coach. So you can find me on Facebook or my website, which is wisewomancoach.co.uk. And I work with women in a very specific way. So I don't do this whole, I'm going to tell you what to do and you go away and do it. This is very much about a unique journey for each woman. So I work through something called soul-based coaching and various other tools that are in the tool bag as well. In terms of what I offer, I have a 4-month one-to-one program, which is called Coming Home to You. And that really is the deep journey. That is the journey from lost to found. And at the end of it, being in a place where you're living life to your values, in alignment, and as a full expression of you, and that's magical. So I also have a free Facebook group as well. So that's called She Remembered Who She Was.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria. I look forward to chatting with you again. Thank you for sharing your story, also your personal story and your wisdom. Thank you.